Trust you.
Hi, and welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly Podcast. I'm Jathan.
And I'm Guff.
Today, we're going to talk about something that we're going to be doing at the shop here pretty soon.
Oh,
Hopefully, in the near future.
what's that?
Starter sets.
Oh, yeah.
So you came up with this idea,
Yep.
and I like it. I think it's a good idea. I've done something similar in the past, but not with starter sets, just
Right.
with like game systems. Tried it a couple different times, but I haven't had much success with like keeping it rolling.
Right.
Way back in the day, there was a guy that used to do a bunch of role-playing games, and it was the channel was It Me JP, I think,
Okay.
on Twitch. It was real role play. They haven't done it for years now, but one of the guys on there, Steve Lumpkin, I think was his name. He's a Canadian guy.
Right.
Was a DM, and he came up with this idea of role play R&D, research and development. And it was they'd play every 4 to 6 weeks. They'd play a system. So, sorry, not every 4 to 6 weeks, but for 4 to 6 weeks, they'd play a system
Right.
once a week. And they'd pick random systems. They played everything from Apocalypse World to Pendragon to, I think, Numenaria. Like, just tons of games kind of when indie games were really starting to pop out and more role-playing games were popping out. And it was a really cool idea, and I've always wanted to kind of try it. And so I tried it a couple times with some different smaller games.
Right.
And had moderate success with it, but the trouble we always ran into is we'd play a game for 4 weeks and people wanted to keep playing
Right.
because they liked it so much.
Yeah, that does get to be the issue.
I didn't really have an issue wrapping something up in 4 to 6 weeks, but my players had an issue with like letting go within
Right.
4 to 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah, we did that here in the store after the big pandemic. We started rotating on one of our weekdays or weekends. Every other, we had Warhammer, we had Cyberpunk, we had
Dragon Age.
we had a Warcraft, 5th Ed
Yep.
side. Oh, there's a few others too. I can't remember them all, but it turned out well. But it ended up being, same thing happened. Cyberpunk was only supposed to go for 3 to 6 weeks.
We were going to try it out, yeah.
It just kept going and going and going and going.
I think we wrapped that up in like 6 months, is what it was.
I think you came in for the second round of it, though. They already had played one round, I think, at that point.
No, we had done a bunch of one-shots to learn the system.
Okay, that could be, yeah.
Because I was part of that from the get-go, I think. Or I think I missed the first one, and then I came in for the next 3 or 4. And then I decided I liked it, so then I committed to the campaign.
Right. That could be. I don't remember.
Because that was after they were done with Dragon Age.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. They played Dragon. Anyway, yeah, I know they played. Well, Dragon Age was only supposed to last a certain period of time.
Too. Yeah, but that's the trouble. Is like it's
people fall in love with the system and they keep playing it.
So there's like an overarching topic I kind of want to talk about after we talk about the starter set idea. So remind me to come back to that.
I will definitely try.
Okay. So what's your idea with these starter sets?
Well, it kind of goes back to the first thought it was back when 5th Ed came out. They had Lost Mines of Vandelver, I think, was in the starter set.
Yep.
And that was kind of a gritty thing. If you played it by the book, by the rules, it was fairly gritty.
Mm-hmm. But
it was a lot of fun, and it gives people an experience to play 5th Ed in kind of a controlled environment. There's no like free roaming. There's no You're kind of in a small zone, for lack of a better word. And that was fun. But then I want to try Pathfinder 2E later down the road, and that's where it really kind of topped off my interest, was the Pathfinder 2E from Piazzo, whatever you guys call it. Whatever. I don't know what it's called. Is it Piazzo?
I think it's Piazzo. Yeah.
Piazzo. They had it set up because it's definitely a different system than 5th Ed. It's a little more robust. There's a lot more juice to it.
Yeah, it feels more like a souped up 3.5 or 3.0.
Right. And so
Die 20 modern.
I didn't want to just learn it straight off the core book, because the core book's like
500 pages,
like 600 pages, 800 pages, something like that. Like, I don't want to read that whole book to learn how to play the system.
Right.
And I didn't really want to put that on anybody else. But they had a starter set, so I ordered it, got it in, and I'm like, oh, they literally, it's a, it's supposed to be I think a 2 session. I think it was only supposed to be 1 session, but we ended up breaking into 2 sessions or 3 maybe. And they just basically your first chapter is basically getting to know your character. The second chapter is adding a few extra things, a few extra skills. The third chapter is like, okay, now we're gonna throw all the skills this character has, and all the monsters can be at full strength.
Yeah.
And it was really a super, like, super easy way. I mean, you were part of the end of that.
Yep.
But it was a super easy way to learn how to play Pathfinder. The way they did it was through stages, and I told the players up front, we're not going to look into anything, even though all of us had played many RPGs. I said we're just going to play it as they want us, as intended. And I think for the most part, we learned a lot about that system in that period of time. It was a really good way to learn a new system. And then we ended up playing another, more sessions after that. But
yep.
I'm just kind of curious since that has come out, I noticed there's a lot of other companies that are releasing starter kits. We have Sentinels of the Multiverse, The Walking Dead, Shadowrun has multiple versions of starter kit. I think they have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Old BattleTech had a starter set, which would be kind of cool to play.
Yep, Dungeon Crawl Classics has quite a few.
Right. All the stuff from Fantasy Flight, they all come with starter sets. And I'm not saying they're all equal, but it'd be really interesting to learn off of those, or even like you said, the game day,
the free RPG day,
thing.
Yep.
I mean, they're all real dumbed down versions of the game,
very simplified,
just to see if you want to learn more.
Yeah. So I've kind of noticed there's a diverging flow off of this stream of starter sets.
Right.
There is the instance of, we'll take the Pathfinder 2e starter set, for example. That one did a really good job of explaining how to do a role-playing game to someone who's never played a role-playing game before.
Right.
5th edition has some really cool, what I like to call starter sets, even though they're not starter sets.
Right.
They have self-contained adventures.
Yeah.
Not the big books like Tomb of Annihilation or Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Right.
They have even shorter adventures. And you played in one of them that I ran, Rakama, which is where you play a bunch of Yankee Githzerai and you're trying to kill Mind Flayers.
Right.
That's a really cool one. We've also done, in another group of mine, The Lost Laboratory of Qualish, which is the sequel for the old module Expedition to the Barrier Peaks.
Okay, gotcha.
And that was a ton of fun.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because there used to be a lot of D&D modules that were kind of like that.
Right.
Where it's not necessarily for newer players, so to say, but it's for people who are looking for a self-contained adventure from this level to this level.
Right.
And I kind of miss modules that were like that. And that's one of the things I really liked when we did Dungeon Crawl Classics, was that you'd look at the Dungeon Crawl Classics, and it felt like the 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons or 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons, where, hey man, this module is designed for players from levels 2 to 6.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, great. I don't have anything for my players to do. Maybe I'll squeeze this in. And you could kind of inject them into worlds, and you had to fiddle with them a little bit.
Right.
But it made for some really interesting things, and the adventure anthologies are really good for that too. Like I know they did Tales from the Yawning Portal in 5th edition. They also did the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which you could do each one of those individually, or you could run it as a campaign.
Yeah, I think one, I don't even know if you were part of it, but I know that. Let me see here if I can think of the name of it. Candlekeep.
Candlekeep Mysteries?
Candlekeep Mysteries, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
That one is exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. My brother and I.
You have 17 chapters divided, or no, 20. You have 20 chapters. I think it's one for each level.
Yeah.
And you can just, if you have, or 17, I think, because I think the last one is the 17 to 20. But I've run that one. I love it. I think I was thinking of trying to do some like one shots, not one shots, but simple encounters that I could jump people in and out of.
Yeah.
That is definitely, I already own that one on all the formats that I need. But I might actually just run that one again because I really like it. I've only run a couple of the things, but you're in Candlekeep and there's pocket dimensions everywhere.
Yeah.
And so literally you open up a new book, pow, you're in a new pocket dimension.
One of the books that got me into one of my favorite settings, Planescape, came out before Planescape was ever even a thing.
Yeah.
It was called Tales from the Outer Planes. It was a first edition anthology. And the first mission is you're on a prime material world and you get brought through like all these different planes of existence on a wild goose chase. We also had one where you go through the demi elemental plane of time.
Yeah.
And like it had all of these kind of weird self-contained adventures that you could inject in, or you could kind of just like if someone wants a break from DMing, say, someone else could run one of these adventures or run a one or two shots. And I think that idea of running a campaign that is shorter term, I mean, you can't even call it a campaign, running adventures.
Right, adventures, yeah.
That are shorter term has a lot of benefits for keeping people from burnout or keeping people excited and fresh.
Right.
And that's kind of like one of the overarching things that I want to lead into
Right.
is the idea of, and we've talked about this many times, of a campaign that goes for 5 years.
Right.
Or a campaign that's less than 6 months.
Right.
There's a big difference in those, but at the end of the day, I think the main problem that comes up is when people look at D&D and think of D&D, there's all these D&D podcasts and series out there that are these grand adventures. And you don't have to name any names, but I will. Critical Role is a great example.
Right.
People look at Critical Role and they say, "Oh, I want to do that," and it's like there's like 200 some episodes in the first series,
Right.
and it's like that's like 800 hours. Like,
yeah,
that's a long.
That is a long time. Yeah.
That is a long time, and the trouble arises. Most people don't have time to do that every week. For 40, 4 hours. Well, people could make time, but that's beside the point.
Right.
People get busy, or people lose interest, and
they move or get married, and whatever.
And at the end of the day, is it like, yeah, you have a 3-year campaign, and it's something you could tell stories about and have fun with, but like, I've had people tell just as many stories and be just as connected to their characters in a campaign that only lasted 6 months.
Right.
And they remember things about that campaign, and I hear them reference that just about as much as they reference their 3-year campaigns.
Right.
And I think a lot of it has to boil down to like expectations of the players and the DMs.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with running a long extended campaign with a group of friends. It's just maybe that's not for everybody.
Right. No, it definitely isn't for everybody. A lot of people don't have that attention span.
Yeah.
So I think meshing and or challenging or trying out all these different systems. You can find systems that you might be willing to try the longer campaigns with. I know Star Wars is coming back into the fray, at least in the store.
At the shop here, yeah.
But it's not going to be a extended campaign. It's supposed to be 3 to 6 months, but we only play every other week, so you're talking 12 sessions.
Yeah.
Which 12 sessions is really not that much if you think about it.
No, it's not.
When you start talking 200 episodes, 300 episodes at 4.5 to 6 hours episode, then it gets to be quite a truck.
Well, and it's quite taxing on the DM too, because every week you have to plan something fresh to keep people engaged.
Yep.
And granted, some people love that, some people are all about that, but I'm kind of in the lazy DM school.
Yeah.
Of, I like to let my players kind of sandbox it a little bit.
Right.
But also, like, at the same time, lead them on a little bit. I don't like railroading people.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And I'm not saying everyone in a 3-year campaign is railroaded. But
railroading is.
It gets into a different topic.
Right, railroading is a whole different thing. But if you have set expectations from the beginning, like say, hey, we're going to do a starter set, and this should take 2 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to just follow this. That's rare. I'm a railroad you right into that because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But if you're opening up a world that you've created, I mean, yeah, no, or it's like we just had a campaign here just end last week that was going on since before the pandemic. So before 2020, I think it's 2018 maybe when it started.
I think it was
or 2019. I don't know.
It was about 4 years, about 4.5 years.
Yeah, we never really stopped playing that campaign. Mm-hmm. And I know they're happy that it's done, but they're kind of looking forward to the next one. I think everybody kind of is like, okay, we've played those characters out now. Now it's time to try something new.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm shooting for, at least with we're shooting for with every other week different starter set maybe. Just to see how it goes and see where people want to go. Maybe we'll find systems that we really just love.
And at the same time, we could do a starter set every other week.
Yeah.
And then on the off weeks, we could run like old school modules or stick to a couple systems and just run contained adventures.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that was one of the cool things about some of the games that I played was like Apocalypse World I ran. And the longest I've ever run an Apocalypse World quote unquote campaign was 2 sessions.
Right.
It was always one shots. And then I'd try to get one player from the previous one shot into the next game. And we'd bounce around all the time, so it would be everybody would kind of get bits and pieces of what was going on,
right?
And the overarching style of the game, the overarching narrative. And me as a DM, I got to bring back some of the wacky characters that people played,
right?
And then they could be like, "Oh my gosh, that was Joe's character. Oh, we love Joe's character.
Right.
Oh man, he's in this now." And Joe might not even be in the room.
Right. Because yeah, exactly.
And then the next time it would be Jim's character, and Joe would be like, "Oh my god, that's Jim's character!"
Right.
And making references like that can add a lot of fun, and it can help foster your community a little bit too, because people will get to learn about other people's characters through the DM's storytelling.
Right.
So it creates a really cool feeling.
I think so. I think the other thing that it would adds to it will be, for instance, when we're switching our Star Wars campaign, or they were playing Aliens, and they had a full group for Aliens.
Yep.
But now they're switching to Star Wars. Some of the Alien players don't want to play Star Wars because they're just not into the Star Wars universe.
Right.
So now they're picking up new players to jump in.
Yep.
And I think if we're switching systems like that, we might find that there's people that were totally interested in one thing and totally not interested in another thing.
Well, yeah, I mean that's like
interesting.
That's like Blades in the Dark. That's going to be wrapping up hopefully around June. So we only got 3 more months of it.
Still a ways out, huh?
It's still a ways
Something that was only supposed to last for a few weeks.
Blades?
Yeah.
No, that was going to be a campaign.
Oh, okay.
That was I pretty much told everybody it'd be about a year. Because the game we played prior was about a year.
Okay.
Which was that Stars Without Number game.
It was a year?
It's like 9 months, 10 months.
Holy smokes.
It went for a while.
Yeah. Where have I been?
You've been around.
Gosh, darn.
But I like to limit myself to that, like, kind of a year maximum.
You've been around that long?
I've been back for almost 2 years.
Jimmy crack corn.
Because I moved back in 2022.
Dang. Holy smokes. All right.
Yeah.
Shows you how much potential I've been paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get through it. Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's just a fun thing to do. And the other thing we used to do is we used to vote on what game we were going to play next.
Right.
Like, give people a list and then be like, this is what I'm willing to run. What sounds interesting to you guys? I did run into an issue with that, though, where everyone would vote, but then you get someone who really didn't want to play it. And then it's like, well, we kind of want to keep the group together because this is a good group for playing new games.
Right.
They can be serious, they can be funny, they can kind of just go with the flow. And so you kind of run into that issue too of like you don't want to pick something that not everybody's excited about.
Right. Interesting. Well, hopefully with the new systems and the new way we're going to do things, or not new ways, just going to do the old way, but just with newer systems, different systems. Hopefully we catch new players. That would be the ideal choice, is get new players. It's hard to, at least in this kind of environment, we need to have more than just the same 4 or 5 players.
Yeah.
We need to have a group of like 20 players to pick from, and then 4 campaigns broke it up amongst them.
And to be fair, our player pool was probably 12 players total,
Right.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But to get people excited about something and commit to something,
Right.
that's the hardest part.
Right. But speaking of that, now this is kind of cheesy, and this is the first time I'm ever going to do this. I might do it again. We'll see. But I want to talk about something that I've been doing for the last few weeks. That it's a sponsorship thing, and I want to talk about it a little bit. Is Magic Mind.
Oh yeah.
So we tried it. You tried it initially, but you were sick during the.
I was sick. We did try Magic Mind.
Yep.
They were gracious enough to send us free samples, and we tried it out. I tried it for I think 5 days.
5 days, yeah.
And I used it as a replacement for my morning coffee.
Right.
And it did great. I didn't really have any crashes.
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, it tasted fine. It was reasonably priced. I mean, it was about the price of like a 5-hour energy. So, I mean,
right.
You know, the equivalent things.
Yep. Yeah,
and you took it for longer.
Yeah, because when I talked to the people there, you know, I mentioned that, you know, hey, it was flu season here, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to give it a whirl. Well, then they decided to go ahead and send us more. And you at the time were still sick, so I'm like, well, I guess I'll take one for the team this time. And you know, I found that I liked it a lot, and today will be my first day I'm not on it.
Okay.
And I noticed there's a little bit of a difference in my brain power.
Okay.
It's not enough to make me. I'm not. It could be just I got up way earlier than I normally would, so maybe that's part of it. But I like the flavor. I'm not a green tea guy. There's not much in the ingredients that I would even normally go, oh, I want to try that. I'm just kind of that northern Minnesota, that Norwegian Scandinavian type guy that just very simple potatoes and meat, you know, but I liked it. The flavor wasn't bad.
It was good. It was earthy.
Like, it
reminded me of like
green tea and
home steeped green tea.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
I really liked.
I think that it took a few days, and they do mention that it takes up to 5-6 days before you start noticing. And it did take me a few days to notice the differences. But I noticed that I like my nap more Sunday afternoon or daily nap. I've always liked that since I was a kid. Well, maybe not since I was a kid, because I know I fought it a lot when I was young. But when I finally become an adult, I realized that hour nap in the middle of the day is actually really nice. That means I can stay up later, right?
Yep.
Probably shouldn't be staying up later, but I do. I found myself skipping that. I thought that was really weird. Even though my brain was like, hey, you should go take a nap. My body's like, you don't need to.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that. The cost isn't bad if you get it on a subscription. The cost actually comes down considerably. I think it comes down to like less than the 5-hour energies, so which is kind of cool.
Well, and then the caffeine you get out of it isn't like stapled into it either.
No,
like it's not an energy blend that they throw in there. Like
no, there is no. I didn't even notice an energy boost. Well, I noticed it was mostly
the caffeine that it comes from is the natural caffeine you get in tea.
It's just the thing I noticed most was my ability to just stay focused on a project for more than. I'd sit here and paint. I was painting through minis after mini after mini and just building up my whole thing. So, would I take it again? Yeah. And will I probably look at getting a subscription? Yeah, probably will. I was actually really impressed with. You know, I can justify it. I can say, well, okay, instead of drinking a soda, one of my sodas a day, I could just cut that out because that's $2.49 or whatever. And I'll just replace it with Magic Mind.
Yep.
In my.
And as far as the short-term benefits that I experienced, like I said, it was a prime substitute for drinking caffeine.
Yeah, having no crash.
Yeah, and that was
when you could tell, you drink the beverage, a coffee, or you drink a soda. You know, sooner or later that's gonna. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna be like moving along. I didn't notice that at all.
No.
Well, my biggest changes were able to focus and keep on task, and then not crashing. Anyway, we don't normally do stuff like that, but I just want to throw that out there. Thank you, Magic Mind, for everything you've done so far, and we're going to continue working with you, I think. At least I am. And I don't know, the other guy might not. Who knows? We'll see. He's kind of cantankerous at times.
No, I give.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing around.
I give it a solid pass. So
anyway, so now let's continue on.
Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about, as far as trying new game systems, is the idea of shuffling GMs, game masters, or dungeon masters, or MCs, whatever the system calls it. That's something we've always kind of had lacking in groups that I've been in.
Right.
Which has been nice coming here.
Yeah, we've had actually quite a few.
Because when I lived here before, and I was in the game store before, I was one of 2, maybe 3 de facto DMs.
Right.
If someone was going to run a game, it's, hey, can we convince Javen to run this game?
Right.
Now I don't have to do that anymore.
Right. There are 3. We have a lot more. We have a lot less players. I shouldn't say a lot less players, but we have a lot more people willing to engage in that. Most of the time, like you just said, most of the time you're gonna have 1 or 2 DMs, and you'll have 100 players, or 30 players, like in the other game store we had there, or when you were here last time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players. Nobody wants to run a campaign, and I think most of that comes down to people just haven't tried it.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
there were so many people. Sorry not to interrupt.
No.
But there were so many people when I used to run games, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I really want to try run a game.
Yeah.
What should I do?" And
just do it.
And I'm like, you just have to do it.
Yeah, that's
I could play if you want help with the rules, I'll sit in on a game and help you with the rules. But as far as like me teaching someone how to DM or somebody teaching someone else how to DM, it's not something you can just be like, oh yeah, you have to follow these steps.
No,
everyone has their own flow and everyone has their own style of doing it. You just gotta get out there and kind of. Some people really like to tell a story. Some people really like to play tactical games.
Yeah.
And I've had DMs on both sides of the fence.
Yep.
I've had guys and gals that have DM'd that have been like, okay, how many meters or how many feet are you moving and what direction are you facing?
Right.
And it's a really tough tactical game.
Right.
But on the flip side, I've also had people be like, I don't know, we don't really have a role for this, so like just explain to me how you're kind of doing it and we'll just kind of make it go from there.
Right.
And we'll kind of it's
just wing it.
We'll just wing it. And they care more about the story than the tactical element.
Right.
And a good DM, a really good DM, and I'm not saying people that just do one or the other are bad DMs.
No, right, exactly.
But a really strong centered DM will be able to flex between those two.
Right.
And so that's something to keep in mind when you want to DM and you want to try it out is like, hey man, I'm going to try do a little bit of combat that might be a little bit intense, maybe get the miniatures involved.
So what we should do, though, now is we should stop at the DM thing. We should say that for the podcast.
Okay.
I mean, a little cliffhanger, because there's a lot we can talk about on that, and I think that's a golden subject, players and DMs.
And we've talked about it a little
bit.
Right,
but I think we can go into deep.
We could do a deep dive dedication. Okay. So I'll gloss over that a little bit.
So let's just get back to what we're talking about. Because it's a good thing. It's a good subject. Don't get me wrong. And I like where it's going. But I think we can make a whole episode on that.
I would agree. So as far as the starter sets, so what are some of the starter sets you're interested in running?
I'm interested in running Shadowrun. I want to try that.
Do you want to do 5th World, 6th World?
Probably 5th because I have more information on that than I have 6th.
Okay.
I don't really want to go out and buy more 6th. So I think I have 6th World also.
Well, I think I've bought 3 Shadowrun core books in my life. Yeah. And I've never played any.
No, right. No, well, it's because the learning curve is pretty crazy.
Well, and then getting people to sit down and learn it is so hard. Because it's one of those games you can't just like read the book and understand how it works.
No.
You have to play. Yeah. And then you have to have people that are willing to play and willing to have a couple, maybe 2 to 3 slow games where they're learning.
We're all slogging through it together. Yeah. I'd like to do that. I wouldn't mind trying, any of the other ones too. Cyberpunk would be fun. I mean, we played Cyberpunk in the store before, but not everybody has.
Yeah, so getting some new people.
We have Walking Dead. We have any of the Star Wars ones up there.
And I would love to run more people through the MCC, DCC grinder. Right. Like, that's just, the character funnels are so much fun. And that to me is their starter set.
Let's have a starter set for the Sentinels Multiverse.
That'd be a fun one.
I'm pretty sure I don't know if that's over there or not, but
Sentinels is
Road Quest. We have. There's all kinds of them.
What was that one that was all about colors and radiance and
Overlight.
overlight? Was that
I
what it
think that's
was?
what it's called.
Yeah, that one looked really cool. I
I
also have the Warhammer Wrath and Glory.
Oh yeah.
That one would be fun to do.
Yeah.
There's a Root one from the board game where you play as all the different little animals in Root.
Oh, Humblewood also, which
Yeah,
is
Humble would be a good one.
amazingly enough, which is not okay. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that subject.
That's a whole podcast.
That's popping up on D&D Beyond.
Yep.
Amazingly enough.
Some of the other fun starter sets. The second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons board game. That's technically a starter set.
Oh,
That's supposed to be like a segue into how to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Interesting.
Because it uses the THAC0 and all of that in the game.
Oh, I wonder if that's the one we have over there.
That's the one we have over there, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I don't think I've ever played that one, that particular version.
Kids on Bikes and Tales from the Loop is another.
There you go.
Couple ones that have really cool starter sets. Really interesting game systems. You're basically playing like oh my gosh, what's the name of that series? Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It's basically.
I haven't got into that quite yet.
I haven't either, but
mostly because I know that's that slippery rabbit hole that I'm just gonna be like, I'm
yeah.
stuck in.
Next thing you know, it's 3 days
sometimes
later.
it's nice just not to. It's kind of like the Big Bang Theory for me. It was so huge when it was out. Everybody was like, "You got to watch, you got to watch it." I'm like, no, 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 no. Now that I'm watching it at my own leisure, and after I've seen all the memes already, or not all of them, but I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of just nice just to kind of take my casual time through it. Everybody already knows it. I don't have to.
That's like me with the MCU, and now with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've been watching through that. Oh my God, what a funny!
I haven't watched.
What a funny series.
It's
pretty dark, but oh my
that's okay.
God, it's funny.
So maybe what we should do is to make this a little more interesting and to make it a little less burdensome on you and I, because you and I are the ones fronting most of the books and stuff for this stuff anyway.
Most of the different games, yeah.
Right, we're the ones usually.
Yeah, we literally own the books.
Yeah. We're the ones buying all the books and doing this. Maybe what we should do is we should get together a lot of these people who are DMs, because we have a lot of them right now.
We have quite a few, yeah.
We have Matt. We have Garth.
We have Joe 1, Joe
2. Yeah, we have all these DMs. Maybe what we should do is get all these DMs and say, hey, why don't you guys pick starter sets?
Maybe have a DM conference.
Yeah, have DM conference, get together. Each of us go out and purchase a starter set if we don't have them already.
Yeah.
We can use the ones we got here, but we can also purchase new ones because there's so many of them.
That's a great idea.
Then we can each try a whole completely different.
Well, and the fun part too would be DMs or. This might be getting
no, that's okay. A little more teaser.
But a lot of times that a DM, someone who has DM'd a game for many times, like a lot of our players that or a lot of the people that we're talking about here are very experienced DMs.
Right.
Have DM'd for decades.
Right.
Probably a century collectively.
Right. Oh yeah. No doubt.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And DMs tend to have a different mindset when they play a game.
Yep.
And so having DMs agree to play starter sets could be a really interesting.
I tell you, it changed me. I was a DM. I've been a DM for a long time. I also like playing too, but I don't mind being a DM for reasons we'll get into in the next podcast.
Yeah.
But it changed the whole starter set thing because we've always played the starters. I've played the starter sets a long time, but starter sets back in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the red box or even basic, is not the same thing as starter sets today. They're completely different.
It's not your basic kit.
No,
or your expert kit.
It changed my whole outlook because I had everybody at the table. Not one of them had played Pathfinder.
Yeah,
Pathfinder 2 anyway. It was just like I made them all play characters, random character 1 through 4. They rolled the dice, and then each picked a number 1 through 4. And that's what they got.
Well, it's fun too because a lot of the newer starter sets, the companies are very good about putting like character art in it, or they're putting like handouts and maps and all sorts of
all
fun
of
stuff
it's
in
built right into the starter
visuals.
set. Yeah, it's
really a lot of times you even get dice with it.
Yeah. I have a lot of dice sets from starter sets that I've just gathered over the years. But anyway, so starter sets. That's what we're gonna have. We gotta do that. I'm gonna put that on my post. I'm gonna get that out there.
So I think that wraps it up for this episode. Moral of the story: try new game systems.
Yeah, you should.
It's
Don't be. Yeah, I've tried a lot. I've tried more this last couple years than I've probably tried my whole life.
and it's a
And
blast.
it's yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed all of them, whether it was Aliens or Stars Without Numbers or Listening to Blades in the Dark. Um, Pathfinder 2.
Yep.
I did a little bit of Cyberpunk for just going through with some stuff with one of the other guys that were here, and it's just like wow.
Well, I mean, I've been doing it since I started
Mm-hmm.
DMing. Basically, like I played D&D for a year, and then I was all of a sudden it was like, oh, Javen's coming in with like 10 different
Right.
games, and I've always
Not to mention riffs.
riffs and oh my god, Teenage Mutant Ninja
Or,
Turtles and other strangeness, GURPS, Apocalypse
right.
World, Rogue Trader, like just tons of different
Yeah.
games. So, anyways, take
Yeah.
care,
Thanks for sticking around.
and we'll talk at you guys next time.
Wait for the DM
Episode.
podcast coming soon to a theater near you.
To it. Earbuds near you.
That's right.
All right, bye.